I'm here to just make a quick, short video about this Hulk Hogan backlash and hate that he's getting right now. You literally have people all online celebrating Hulk Hogan's death. Now, there's two things that's, bothering. One is everyone saying Hulk Hogan is racist. And the second thing is everyone celebrating his death. That's all I'm seeing online. There's about 10% of some of these YouTubers and people on Facebook, like wrestling magazines and stuff, that are actually, giving Hulk Hogan his flowers because he's, passed away. Man, the other 75% is just these neckbeard simp ass people, Democrats type people that are just celebrating his death. Like they're happy Hulk Hogan is dead. Now, the memes are one thing, the trolling is one thing, but the celebrating Hulk Hogan's death just doesn't sit right. Now, there's one thing to, not care about his death. You can have a lot of people that, just say, or their opinion of Hulk Hogan could be they think he's racist and they don't care if Hulk Hogan was dead or alive. I can't accept that. I could see if someone posted, I don't care about Hulk Hogan, it doesn't matter. But to actually celebrate and be happy that he passed away is ridiculous. You never met Hulk Hogan. You probably don't even watch wrestling. And how does Hulk Hogan passing make your life better to where you're celebrating it? That's why, they have some YouTubers that are literally having parties on live and are having like 1 hour videos celebrating Hulk Hogan's death, which is crazy. We know the wrestling community didn't like Hulk Hogan, for the past few years. When he came on Netflix, he was booed out of the stadium pretty much. He's crazy part. He still got that pop, but I wasn't expecting the wrestling community right now to have about 75% of people, happy that he's gone. Hulk Hogan, he gets a bad rep. And, some other wrestlers, didn't like him. But, Shelton Benjamin, Mark Henry, MVP and all them, I don't think they are celebrating Hulk Hogan's death. They probably don't care and don't give a shit, whether he was alive or not. But I don't think, I don't think they are celebrating his death. One thing that's crazy about Shelton Benjamin, when Hulk Hogan, messed up and just kind of swapped his first name and last name and called him Benjamin Shelton, Shelton Benjamin kind of went off on him. But if you really watch that clip, he was actually giving props to Shelton Benjamin. That's the crazy part. He was giving props to Shelton Benjamin, saying how good of a wrestler he was and stuff. So If you really go look at the history of Hulk Hogan, he wasn't racist. He protected his character. He did put over people that, that deserved it. He wasn't doing what Roman Reigns is doing and, not necessarily that undefeated streak. I'm talking about losing to people that don't deserve it. He showed you how to protect your brand and actually make and push a megastar. You should be able to take Hulk Hogan's playbook, apply that, to your wrestler. Even if you apply 25% of that, you would make megastars. You can give Braun Breaker the Hulkamania treatment and he'll be a big star, but he needs to learn how to talk on the mic. But that celebrating of Hulk Hogan's death has to stop. I don't think anyone's death should be celebrated. If you take some, teenager who goes and, shoots up a school or something and gets killed, you still shouldn't celebrate that death because, obviously something went wrong, in that teenager's life that you should sympathize with and realize, that's still, a human person. You shouldn't celebrate it. You could be relieved, that person may be going, like, that threat was neutralized, but to celebrate it is wild. What did Hulk Hogan do that was so bad? He didn't kill anybody like Snooker or Macho Man Randy Savage or Chris Benoit. Y'all didn't celebrate their deaths. Hulk Hogan said some stuff in private, which half of y'all do stuff in private that is probably worse than what Hulk Hogan said. Y'all just want to be woke so bad. Why don't you get on Goldberg for trashing Asuka? Hulk Hogan never had a problem with any of them. Hulk Hogan is the reason why WWE and all these other promotions are even popular today. I think this celebrating of Hulk Hogan's death is crazy. And it goes to show you where America really is. When you step out of your house, be careful. Because you have people like that who are celebrating Hulk Hogan's death. What else would they do? What else? Where are they thinking? There's no fiber in my being where I would actually be like, I'm celebrating his death. Now, I understand, if you're some trolling teenager, trying to get a cheap reaction, from your YouTube channel or something. But really, I'm seeing, anywhere from teenagers to grown men, to young adults, to people over 50 years old celebrating Hulk Hogan's death online. Come on, man. That's like the cringiest thing. You have Ozzy Osbourne and, what's that other guy? I forgot his name. The guy that was on the Cosby Show. I'm looking at his, RIP videos, and you have people in the comment section making Bill Cosby jokes and stuff. It's like, man, where is America going? I'm pretty sure this stuff wouldn't fly online, in other countries, just because the people are different. I don't know where America's gonna be in like 10 years. Like, people are crazy. Like, when I'm, old and gray, it's like, am I gonna be one of these angry, grandparent type people because the world is just so mega different? Like, I mean, where's the sympathy? Hulk Hogan was still a father. He went through trials and tribulations like everyone else. He might not have been the greatest person on earth, but I mean, you have to, you can give Hulk Hogan your flowers and not care, but to actually celebrate Hulk Hogan's death, I feel like a lot of people threw a lot of negative energy in the world for celebrating Hulk Hogan's death, and they better, get on their knees and repent and, say they're sorry for that. Not because Hulk Hogan's spirit is going to come back and do anything to them. I just think whatever you put out is going to come back. Hopefully it's not like some car wreck or something like that, but a lot of people need an eye opener. I think they need an eye opener. All those people that are sitting back celebrating Hulk Hogan's death, making fun of him, talking about like his heart went out and, all of this stuff, just putting out bad stuff, being really negative. I mean, y'all need an eye opener. I don't know what that eye opener gonna be, a bus tire while you're on the interstate, some close call, something. Y'all need something to open y'all minds and really realize what y'all was doing. Like, celebrating Hulk Hogan's death is a mistake. You can give your opinion, and you could even say you hate the guy. Like, you can say you hate his guts, but to take pleasure in his passing is wrong. I'm gonna say it again. To take pleasure in Hulk Hogan's passing is wrong. Hulk Hogan passing is not making your life any better. Gas prices didn't go up because of Hulk Hogan. Ukraine war didn't start because of Hulk Hogan. Gaza isn't being bombed because of Hulk Hogan. Racism isn't ending or getting any better because Hulk Hogan is gone. If anything, black, white, Asian, Indian, every nationality out there comes together and watch WWE because of Hulk Hogan. And just the latest out there, it's only because of Hulk Hogan that a lot of these wrestlers could, semi-retire early and go to Hollywood. They don't have to put their bodies on the line for 30 plus years. They can actually go to Hollywood if they want to. Hulk Hogan was the first. But man, y'all need a wake-up call. Stop celebrating Hulk Hogan's death. It's just not right. It's not sitting well. But that's it for the video. It's going on 15 minutes, but I just had to get that out because that is, y'all are driving me. You know, if you want to say your bad, negative things about Hulk Hogan, that's fine. You know, say that. Just stop celebrating and taking pleasure that Hulk Hogan has passed away. You know, R.I.P. Hulk Hogan. We wouldn't be wrestling fans without you. You know, peace.